Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. I thought in the interests of time, we should proceed. Kara, are you there?
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, I am.
Great. So just a quick one. Before we get on with today's webinar, we're so excited about World Wildlife Day. And this year's theme is quite intriguing. Wildlife normally brings about pictures of lions and elephants and hyenas, but this year we'll be talking about medicinal and aromatic plants, which have significant health, cosmetic benefits, and also play an integral role in their ecosystems. So to find out more, join us in Harare at Zimpark's head office, Zimpark's Gardens, on the 3rd of March, that's next week, Tuesday, to get more detail about what it means, what medicinal aromatic plants can benefit us.
Yeah, in general, yes.
On that note, thank you so much for joining us today. We are having the third webinar, the third Wildlife Insights webinar. And these webinars, we journey from the depths of our rivers to the heights of our forests. We uncover stories of resilience, innovation, and the web of life that connects us all. We also face issues like climate change, environmental degradation, biodiversity loss, but we also celebrate the stories of community success, scientists, scientific discoveries, and individuals who are working tirelessly to protect nature. And today, we've got Kara Trivella from Tikki Hywood Foundation, and her presentation is entitled Armoured, but They Still Need Protection. Without further ado, Kara, over to you.
Thank you so much. Before I get started, I wanted to say I'm very excited for World Wildlife Day as well. I've seen all of the posters that you guys have been putting out, and they're looking fantastic. So that's a very exciting thing coming up. Thank you all for joining us for this presentation. I'm sure many of you know about Tikki Hywood Foundation. We've been working with Zimparks for a very, very long time now. So we're very excited to talk to everyone today about pangolins. So I thought I would start today just showing you a quick video which will introduce the foundation and what we do. You will see some gorgeous forest imagery here, and this is all taken from our center in Cameroon in West Africa. If I can get it to start. I don't know why I'm not hearing audio. Sorry guys, there seems to be a technical glitch with the audio. Tafatwa, I'm not sure if you can help me with a setting somewhere.
Okay, can you check from your side to see if the volume is up?
The volume is on full.
Yes.
Yeah, so my volume is on full everywhere. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, sorry folks, I don't know why I have no audio, so I'm just going to skip our introductory video and hopefully we can figure out what's happening through the presentation.
When you are sharing your content, did you select include sound, the toggle button?
Yes, I did. Would you like me to go back and try and do it again?
Yes, you can try again.
Okay, so I'm just going to stop sharing and start from scratch here. Right. Include sound. Trace. All right, folks, let's try this again. Hopefully we have got this now.
Conservation is not about one person.
I hope you can all
It's
hear this.
definitely about a group of people coming together with one idea and trying to achieve that. We wouldn't have success without our teams, whether it be the pangolin minders, whether it be our legal team, whether it be working with the authorities. These members of the Tikki Hywood Foundation are my family. We are one. The Tikki Hywood Foundation is an organization that I set up in the memory of my late father, Tikki Hywood. We're based in Zimbabwe, and we have been focused on a 24/7 rescue and rehabilitation center for all wild animals. Initially, it was me, and I had a few ground staff, and we just kind of like thought this was great. And then all of a sudden, the pangolins started coming in. When you physically have been in that space where there are 4 or 6 or 8 at a time, that is an unbelievably overwhelming feeling of helplessness, of anger, of disappointment, because we as a human race, we're allowing this to happen. Our first step is to try and get that animal to trust us.
For us, rehabilitation of a pangolin is not just physical, it's mental as well. These animals have been extremely traumatized, but a pangolin will eventually realize that you are trying to help it. They're very, very intelligent animals.
We're putting all this energy and resources into the rehabilitation side, but the last thing I would ever want is for a pangolin to have gone through this horrendous journey and then it to happen all over again. So we have to ask the governments of Africa to say, hey, we've got this law protecting the species, let's enforce it. My first African country that I went to, because the pangolin, was Liberia. We then went on to Uganda, to Cameroon, Mozambique, and Malawi, and Nigeria. Hope in different countries that we can come together, we can share knowledge, we can share resources, and people can have an impact. Over 27 years, we have been able to connect with other people and organizations that follow a similar ethos as ourselves with protecting green space. We need that throughout Africa, throughout the world. It's going to be wonderful for the animals that can be released back into these safe environments. Each animal, each pangolin that we can offer a second chance to, that we can nurture and get back into a safe space, that for me is the hope. That's the key.
Tikki Hywood Foundation was established 32 years ago in 1994. It is the longest standing rescue and rehabilitation and release facility for pangolins globally. Over the years, THF has evolved from a purely rescue, rehabilitation, and release organization to have an expansive view on our welfare policy, legislation, and law enforcement when it comes to wildlife. Throughout our 32 years of operation, we are very, very proud to have partners like the Zimbabwe Parks and Wildlife Management Authority, and we have been partners since our inception all those years ago. Through this time, Zimbabwe has, as a country, led the way in pangolin conservation throughout Africa. The pinnacle of this work was the development and implementation of the Zimbabwe Pangolin Conservation and Action Conservation Strategy and Action Plan, which came into being in early 2025. This is the first national action plan for pangolins in the entire of Africa. As you saw in that video, THF started by rescuing wildlife, rehabilitating them, and releasing them back into the wild. Through the years, we've been involved in many endangered species projects, not just pangolin. However, through the years, we've also realized that we've had to adapt and move forward. So in addition to our animal work, we also engage with the appropriate authorities to ensure that the legal justice system is fully utilized and policies are upheld. And we are also very active in anti-illegal wildlife trafficking actions, which we work with very closely with Zimparks. Through the years, our processes have to adapt to varying situations. We went from rescue, rehab, release. We then started discovering more and more about the animals that we work with. We've begun training and imparting knowledge to more and more people throughout all over the globe. And we educate, lobby, and capacitate as much as we possibly can. Conservation is a global endeavor, and no one person can do it on their own. Interestingly, when the foundation first started, we did not choose pangolins. We did not set about with the aim that we would work with pangolins all these years later. They actually chose us. As I'm sure many of you on this call know, pangolins are revered in Zimbabwe. They are a sign of huge respect, and they feature prominently throughout Zimbabwean culture. You can see here that they've been on stamps, on our money, all over the show. So when Lisa first set up the Tikki Hywood Foundation in 1994, she chose the pangolin as a symbol of respect for her father, which this foundation was in memory of. At that stage, we had no idea that we would be working with pangolin. Just a few months after the foundation was started, Lisa received her very first pangolin. Since then, we have had the extreme privilege of working and saving hundreds of pangolins in Zimbabwe. In 2025, we rescued 143 pangolins between our center in Cameroon and Zimbabwe. Of those 143 pangolins, 131 of them have already been released. And a fantastic stat for Zimbabwe in 2025 was that it was the first year that we have received more pangolins that were handed into us from communities than we did receive from criminal cases. This is a huge thing for us because it shows that all of the awareness campaigns that have been happening throughout Zimbabwe over the years are having an impact, and people know more about pangolins now, which is amazing. where did the name pangolin come from? So pangolin is an Australasian word that roughly translates to the one who rolls up. This name describes the pangolin's defensive behavior of rolling into a very tight ball and covering their head with their tail, as you can see in this image here. This creates a very tight-knit armor around them because of their scales that more often than not a predator cannot break through. I've put in here the names of pangolin all over the from several places in the world. Of course, our local languages are prominent because this is where we're from. Pangolins have been on this earth for many, many, many years. Their phylogeny goes back almost 50 million years without very many changes in their physical appearance. There are now 8 species of pangolin. There are 4 Asian species and 4 African species. All 8 of these species are highly endangered and are listed in the CITEX Appendix 1. What's really interesting about pangolins is that because of how they look, their scales and their armor and how they walk, many people believe that they were closely related to xenarthrans. So these are the anteaters in the Americas, armadillos, and the sloths, believe it or not. However, with genetic typing ever evolving, recent genetic evidence actually indicates that the closest living relative to the pangolins are actually the carnivorans, the cats and dogs. So what is a pangolin? These are just a couple of things that tell you a little bit about the pangolin. So they are myrmecophagous, meaning that they only eat ants and termites. Their entire bodies are adapted to this food source. Their tongues can reach a third of the length of their body. So for us, with our ground pangolins, that means that a fully grown pangolin's tongue can reach approximately 40 centimeters in length. They use these long tongues to probe deep into the ants' nests to extract the ants and, if at all possible, the eggs, which are highly nutritious. Because they have such long tongues, they don't have to break open the entire ant's nest to gain access. They only need access through a small hole on the surface. This allows them to feast on the ant's nest underneath while still preserving the integrity of the nest so that the remaining population of ants can rebuild, leaving them food for the next day. Pangolins can either be arboreal or fossorial. The fossorial species, we have 2 in Africa, one of which is the Temminck's pangolin, which is the pangolin that we get here in Zimbabwe. The other one is the giant pangolin. The other 2 African species, the white-bellied and black-bellied pangolins, are both arboreal. They spend the majority of their time up in trees. As I'm sure many of us know, pangolins are covered in scales. And this has led to a common misconception that they are reptiles. Many people will look at a reptile and think, okay, it's scaly, and it doesn't really look like our typical mammal, so it must be a reptile. This, however, could not be further from the truth. Beneath their armor of scales, they actually have very soft and quite thin skin. But let's go more into the pangolin scales. Their scales are composed of keratin, which is a very well-known substance in biology. It is the same substance that makes up our hair and fingernails, and it's the same substance that makes up rhino horn. As such, a pangolin's scales will continually grow throughout their lives, albeit very, very slowly. So in this photo that you have in front of you, you can see that this is the scale of a very old animal because it's very worn and the ridging has totally rubbed off, creating a rather polished finish. We know that the species is incredibly shy and elusive, with very little being understood about them and known about them. Many people often don't even know what birth weight of a pangolin is. However, from our 30 years of rehabilitation experience, we now know that at birth, a pangolin pup could weigh anywhere between 280 to 350 grams. At maturity, a large adult can reach anywhere between 11 and 15 kgs. The largest pangolin that THF has ever dealt with, and this was a once-in-a-lifetime individual, was 20 kgs. It was absolutely massive. However, as many questions as we have been able to answer, there are still many that we have not yet answered. For instance, is a pangolin really nocturnal? Are they actually solitary? What is their population? We have no idea how many pangolin we have left in Zimbabwe to this day. How long do they live for? How do they communicate? We do know that a pangolin does not have a typical voice box like many other mammals, so they do not communicate in the same mechanisms that we do. How would we be able to age a pangolin when it is brought into us and we don't know its background? Where in this country, and to be very honest, where in this continent are they found? Are they associated with specific habitats, or are they generalists? How far can a pangolin move? Many people believe, looking at them, that they wouldn't be able to move very far at all. However, from our experience, we now have monitored and seen that pangolins move a lot further than we actually thought that they could. One thing that floored me when I first started working with pangolins is their relationship with water. In most of the literature, they are described as being water independent, meaning that they don't need to drink freestanding water. They would derive all of their moisture from the food that they've eaten. However, we've seen that this varies between individuals. Some pangolins that have come into us have refused to drink for the entire period of their rehabilitation, which can span weeks, despite being offered water every single day, whereas other individuals will drink every opportunity that they get. Amazingly, pangolins are quite competent swimmers, despite what looks to be a rather heavy armor that they carry around. Additionally, they love to roll in shallow water and soft mud. We believe that this has several uses. The first may be as a heat regulator. They do tend to do this in the hot days compared to winter days. So it would be like us going for a swim. It cools us down. Being able to roll in mud and manure would allow them to rid themselves of ectoparasites. Then, of course, there is the aspect of just pure fun. And that is what I'm going to show you next. This video shows 2 rehabilitated pangolins playing in the mud and having an absolute blast. Let's look at the state of pangolin in Africa. So as we said earlier, there are 4 pangolin species within Africa, with the Temminck's pangolin, the pangolin that we get here, being the most widespread. Africa is the second largest continent on the world, meaning that these species do have a lot of space. Within Africa, there are 35 pangolin range states, which represent 65% of the continent. So pangolins are very widely spread. Despite being so widely spread, there are still no accurate population estimates for any of the pangolin species. Although THF is a proudly Zimbabwean organization, and we've been operating here the entire period that we have been, our experience has grown with the more and more species that we have worked with. We have worked all over Africa with pangolin, from our ground pangolin through to the other three species, the white-bellied, black-bellied, and the giant pangolin. But our reach doesn't stop there. We are globally recognized as experts in pangolin conservation and rehabilitation. The pangolin that you see in front of you, although it looks very similar to a ground pangolin, is actually an Indian pangolin. He was discovered by a vet in Pakistan who had very, very little to work with and had never worked with pangolin before. Upon reaching out to Lisa, they worked together, and over many weeks, they were able to bring this individual back from the brink of death. This Indian pangolin has since been successfully reintroduced into the wild in Pakistan. We all know that the pangolins, just regardless of the species, are now regarded as the world's most trafficked mammal. But why? Why has this relatively innocuous species earned this title? Well, it's quite simple. Pangolin scales are the new rhino horn. Because not many people know what a pangolin looks like, let alone what a pangolin scale on its own looks like, it's made it very easy to be trafficked. Additionally, it's also not a dangerous animal to approach. If you come across a pangolin, you can simply pick it up and put it into a sack, and many people wouldn't be the wiser. A rather alarming stat that has just been published in a recent CITES report is that between 2016 and 2024, in only 8 years, over 500,000 pangolins have been trafficked globally. These pangolins are disappearing right in front of our eyes because we don't actually know much about them. And what we do know about them has often come from the illegal wildlife trade. Everyone knows what a rhino is. But more often than not, when you ask someone what is the world's most trafficked mammal, many people can't answer. Here in Africa, we have a very close relationship, and pangolins are they are highly regarded in much of our cultures. So let's look at this a little bit more. Africa's population is 1.3 billion people over 30.37 million square kilometers. And throughout Africa, there are two very distinct uses for pangolins. In northern and western Africa, they're traditionally eaten as bushmeat, whereas here in southern Africa, they're used in traditional medicine practices. But in addition to that, they are highly revered, which we are incredibly grateful for, because many of our pangolins that we receive in Cameroon come to us horrifically injured because they have been through the bushmeat trade. China's population is nearly the same as Africa's population. However, China is only 9.5 million square kilometers. Essentially, this means that the same population of Africa is in 1/3 of the landmass. 50% of China's population uses traditional Chinese medicine on a daily basis. And traditional Chinese medicine has actually become a global industry and an economic driver for China. In 2016 alone, the sector grossed 130 billion US dollars. This makes it very clear. The demand for Africa's pangolins is not coming from Africa. Although we have had a lot of experience with pangolins, there is still a lot to learn from them. And the key to the survival of this species is for all of us to document and to share our experiences with one another. This is the only way that we can save them. We don't know how many are left, so every single one counts. Here, I would like to talk to you about gorillas, and I would like to use this as a case study for why we need to be so careful with how we deal with pangolin going forward. Humans have always had a fascination with nature, and this has developed into what we know now as our tourism industry. This example focuses on the Eastern Highland gorillas found in Rwanda. Many people would love to go and see the gorillas. And this developed into the gorilla trekking tourism. This tourism turned the tide on the rampant poaching in Rwanda of the gorillas. The poachers became protectors because they were gaining more from the gorillas being there than what they could from the bushmeat trade. However, as with anything, there are unpredictable results. For the gorillas in Rwanda, it was human respiratory diseases. We have now found that many gorillas are contracting our human diseases and are dying. A very interesting research article published in 2020 delved into this. What did this paper say? Essentially, 20% of sudden death in mountain gorillas was associated with infectious respiratory diseases contracted from human beings. Bear in mind that with the gorillas of this forest, the Bwindi forest, there is a known population of only 450 individuals. The government of Uganda then tried to counteract this circumstance, and they laid down very strict rules on the gorilla tourism. For instance, no more than an 8-person tourist group can visit one gorilla family per day for a maximum of 60 minutes. The study, however, found that over 98% of the rules were violated on every single trek. This is not just an example of how people break the rules. It's an example of how humans affect the wildlife. This is a fantastic quote from this paper. Due to anthropogenic activities, we're substantially increasing our exposure to pathogens that we have never been exposed to, and thus we're not prepared to respond to. We're doing this in 2 main ways: bringing wildlife too close to us, getting too close to wildlife. This example showed us that we impact them. They can contract our diseases. What if we can contract theirs? It's opening a door that we potentially cannot close. This is what COVID showed us. And because we don't know enough about pangolins in particular, Should we really be taking this risk? I'm about to show you a rather distressing video that was filmed in South Africa in a national park. This is of a guide who has just found a pangolin for his guests.
No, so that you can see it won't die. Let me see what is self-made, so that you can take the picture.
Sorry, we can't see the video from this end, sorry.
My goodness, let me try and play it again for you.
Didn't take the picture.
It's not the clearest video here.
No.
So what you're seeing
so that you can
is
see
this
it won't
guy
die.
is picking with a pangolin to try and get it to
so
roll
that you
into
can
a
take the
ball
picture.
to show his clients.
The ball didn't take the picture.
This is what I wanted to speak to all of you today about, is the ethical considerations that we need to have around pangolins. Being nature lovers, we would all love to see wildlife in their natural habitat. I mean, that's our aim. And this is the ultimate aim, I believe, for all tourists who come and visit us, is to view, approach, and be able to appreciate these species in their natural environment, completely unaffected by humans. For many other species, elephant, lion, buffalo, we have clear rules and regulations that we can follow. We have been able to define the species' comfort zones and clear warnings that the animals will give us when they are no longer comfortable, as well as being able to identify when an animal is being backed into a corner and is about to attack, or what we call is the critical zone. We have not been able to do any of this for pangolin. No one knows what a pangolin's comfort zone is. How far can a person be away from the pangolin without impacting them? What does a pangolin being stressed look like? For pangolin in particular, this is incredibly important because they are highly susceptible to stress, which we have seen from our vast experience in the rehabilitation setting. We know that stress kills pangolin. So, from a pangolin's perspective, what is the difference between being attacked by a predator and being picked up by a person when they've never seen a person before? For a pangolin, their first response will always be to get away from danger. So, firstly, they roll into a ball to protect themselves. That shows that they are concerned for their safety. As soon as that direct and immediate threat has left, the pangolin's first response will be to get out of that area because they know that it's dangerous. This can result in them moving out of their established home range and their established areas. We don't know what this does. In addition to negatively impacting pangolins can also hurt people. In this image here, you can see a young pangolin with very, very sharp scales. They are like razor blades. And even when curled into a ball, the pangolin scales sit quite nicely, and it's like it is covered in razors. The pangolin will then, when it feels further threatened, flick its tail backwards and forwards, like very, very rapidly. And if you get hit by this tail, I can tell you from first-hand experience, it can cause quite deep lacerations, and it hurts like anything. This also puts the pangolin in danger because if it does this when a person is holding it and this person is not expecting it and they get swiped with the pangolin's tail, they could drop the pangolin just out of shock. And this again can cause internal injury and many, many other things. Again, it's stressful to the pangolin. We know from our rehabilitation setting that pangolins can contract human diseases, such as our colds and flus. What we don't know is, can we contract diseases from them? We don't have the information to make that call just yet. And what we don't want is this amazing species to be labeled as a disease carrier because humans push the boundaries. We all wish that we could see a pangolin in the wild. That's where they're supposed to be. But when you do, when you are lucky enough to see a pangolin in the wild, what should you do? How should we behave? Well, this is what THF recommends. Firstly, stay a respectful distance away from the animal. Just because we don't see them as with the same danger as we would a lion or an elephant doesn't mean that we have to go right up to them. Watch their natural behaviors. It is an absolute privilege to be able to watch a pangolin just being a pangolin in the bush. When viewing at night, try not to shine the light directly onto the pangolin, which could startle it or temporarily blind it. This is I know an industry standard that Zimparks has set throughout their national parks. If you have a red light, always rather use a red light than white light. Same goes for pangolin. Red light is much less intrusive to them. Enjoy the experience and take photos. I mean, it is absolutely incredible to be able to see this. And please do tell us. We love hearing about all of your sightings in the various national parks. Pangolins can't be saved by any one individual or one organization. It takes all of us coming together and playing our various roles and interlinking and dovetailing with each other to save this species. What we do know is that pangolins know how to take care of themselves. They have it inherently inside of them. They know what they need to do. We simply need to be able to put them back into protected areas where they can just be pangolins. We also need to push back against unsustainable utilization for any and all species. But particularly with pangolin, they are incredibly slow with their growth rates, and their breeding we know is quite slow as well. So we don't want to impact them negatively there because it can take them many, many years to recover. Over the years, our approach has evolved to various situations that we have faced. Through it all, though, our motivation has always been in their eyes and their actions. We will always fight for their right. This last weekend, on the 21st of February, was World Pangolin Day. Very much like World Wildlife Day that we are building up to, World Pangolin Day is a globally recognized day where we all come together to recognize and celebrate the incredible species that these animals are. And THF has put together a short video in honor of World Pangolin Day that I would like to show you.
For decades, pangolins have disappeared silently.
Taken from forests.
Taken piece by piece, scale by scale.
Taken from the world.
Taken from the future.
It is the most trafficked mammal on Earth.
But this is not a story about loss.
This is a story about people.
People who refuse to look away.
Because no pangolin is saved by one person alone.
It takes many hands.
many hearts.
Countless sleepless nights.
It takes a call answered.
A rescuer who shows up.
A veterinarian who doesn't give up.
A caregiver who stays when it gets hard.
It takes communities who choose protection over silence.
Minders who walk further.
And teams who believe that even the smallest life matters. None of them do this for recognition.
They do it because life, every life matters.
Conservation is not a solo act.
It is a chorus.
A symphony.
Minders, rangers, veterinarians, communities, foundations, governments.
Each one carrying a piece of hope.
And when people come together,
Even the most defenseless among us
Can be given a second chance. This moment is not goodbye.
It is thank you.
thank you for trusting us.
now go.
Be wild again.
On World Pangolin Day, we honor the animal.
But today, on behalf of the pangolin, we honor the protectors.
Thank you all very much for taking the time out of your busy days to listen to what the Tikki Hywood Foundation has been doing over the past 32 years in conjunction with Zimparks to save these incredible species.
Thank you so much, Kara, for that insightful presentation, and thank you for highlighting a lot of the unknowns regarding pangolins and how, yes, we may affect them, and how it's not yet proven that they affect us. But at this point, we would like to open up for any burning questions that we might have from our audience. Any burning questions? No questions? Yes, Nobs, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, and thank you so much for this very interesting and amazing presentation. Yeah, we always learn new things all the time. You never learn it all. So just out of interest, I think there are some areas that have been doing spore count surveys and picking up spores of pangolins. I don't know how that type of information could actually be used, if it's useful at all in estimating our populations or our densities. How best do you think we can effectively monitor the species in our protected areas, given that we do not have any statistics at the moment regarding the densities and the population? So what do you think would be the next steps that authorities or people in protected and conserved areas could actually adopt to monitor this? Thank you.
Wow, Nob, so that is an incredible question, and it's one that we have been discussing within ourselves a lot over the past few years on how we can start answering this very, very important question. We are not aware of organizations doing spore counts for pangolin. because we have noted that to correctly identify pangolin spore is incredibly difficult. They more often than not don't actually leave clear spores, certainly not as clear as elephant, lion, all of our bigger species. What we are leaning towards is that sightings of the pangolin are of utmost importance. And if we can start utilizing those sightings and mapping where they are found and seen, we believe that that's the first step.
Thanks for that. Any other questions? So, Cara, you still there?
I'm right here.
Yes, thank you. So, you know, one of the most interesting things that you mentioned today for me was our impact on pangolins. And now, so one issue that I grew up being told was the link between pangolins and leprosy. For some reason, I'm not sure why they did it, but someone told me that pangolins cause leprosy. I know it might be a dumb question, but maybe I'm asking it for someone else as well here.
Wow, Tafatswa, that is really, really interesting. I've never heard of this before, so I can't comment.
Oh, okay, no problem, no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for raising it, though. It's really interesting to know that, you know, this is being spoken about in our communities.
Yes, yes. So I thought I should highlight that as well, because there might be some falsehoods that are being promoted regarding pangolins, and I'm sure that would have an impact on our efforts towards taking care of them.
I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, it's very, very interesting. I will definitely see if I can go and do some reading and see what I can find.
Sure. I see another question there. Yes, Nobs, again.
Again, sorry, this has been really intriguing for me, and a lot of things keep coming to mind, you know, that I'm just thinking about. And I was just wondering, since we have vets involved in these processes when we capture the pangolins and when we release them, so I'm just assuming that we're certainly collecting some genetic material. And I was wondering, like, how many of those do we reintroduce into the field and also find their way maybe back again, and, you know, coming back, you know, because I'm just thinking, like, even from the other areas that you mentioned, like the number of recoveries that you've had, or those that have been submitted by hand to you, like how many have been reintroduced and then find their way back again into, I don't know, into these spaces which are certainly not safe for them. Are we doing any monitoring using the genetic information that's available? I mean, 143 rescued pangolins is a lot, and I don't know if we can even assume or estimate our populations using that, but just wondering about the genetic information that we have.
Thank you so much for highlighting that, Nobs. I just wanted to clarify that the 143 pangolins that I mentioned, the stats that I mentioned at the start of my presentation, that is from 2 countries. So it's not just from here in Zimbabwe, it's also from Cameroon. And the majority of those pangolins were actually recovered and released in Cameroon, where the numbers are much, much higher. In Zimbabwe in 2025, we actually recovered 25 pangolin. And then going on to your genetic utilization on looking at whether these pangolins come back into the trade. To our knowledge, this is not being done in Zimbabwe yet. It's actually very, very difficult. And on a global scale, many people are still working on just trying to create a genetic makeup for the pangolin and trying to find the important markers that are necessary for pangolin in particular.
Well, thanks for that, Cara. Maybe while we're talking about the genetics, and I think Nobs mentioned something about populations. What are the estimated populations in Zimbabwe, perhaps?
We have absolutely no idea, to be very frank. Because of the elusiveness of the species, all of our traditional population monitoring techniques don't work for them. So we're all trying to go back to the drawing board to develop these population monitoring techniques that will work for pangolin. But currently, here in Zimbabwe, we have no idea how many pangolin we have. But on a global scale, this is not something that just Zimbabwe is struggling with. On a global scale, no one knows the population levels of any pangolin species.
Okay. Well, thanks for that. Quite elusive, yes?
Very elusive indeed. I mean, they are absolutely incredible. And if they don't want to be seen, they will tuck themselves under a bush and you could walk straight past them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, yes. So I see Beta and M. I think Beta and M would like to share something with us. And I think that would be our final contribution for today. Okay. They are in a noisy place and they might not be able to contribute at this point in time. But on that note, thank you so much, Cara, for taking time out to share your experiences with us. Thank you as well to the Tikki Hywood Foundation for accepting the invitation as well to present on their experience regarding pangolin conservation. Now, before we leave, we will see a red dot in our chats. If we can just go to our chats, we will see a poll there. We would really like to know any areas for improvement regarding this webinar. If there's any thoughts that you would like to share with us, we'd be glad to receive your thoughts and make sure that we continue to improve our webinar experiences, we continue to improve our content. Right, next month, we will have a team coming out from Chivero. Lake Chivero has been in the news for some time now, and we will be discussing issues to do with the lake, the health of the lake, the health of the ecosystems that the lake supports. Of course, bearing in mind that Lake Chivero is one of Zimbabwe's 7 Ramsar wetland sites. And so the presentation is going to be entitled Lake Chivero at a Crossroads, Assessing Ecosystem Health and Conservation Interventions. And our presenters will be Diana Marewange Pochasara, senior ecologist based in Chivero. She has extensive experience in terrestrial ecology and former rhino coordinator. And we also have David, an aquatic ecologist who's specializing in freshwater ecology and fisheries. And very early in his career, he's already published several publications in aquatic systems. So please stay tuned, visit our website, visit all our socials to stay updated on the next webinar. We will definitely be posting content in advance. But on that note, thank you so much for joining us, and we are excited that our audience continues to grow. Do share and please tell as many people that this is what we're doing, and you're all welcome to join us for the next Zimparks webinar. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tembelani, for that comment.
Thank you all very much for allowing us the opportunity to share with you. It was fantastic, and I look forward to your next webinar.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.